Oh, I'm live. Good afternoon and welcome to another exciting edition of Ancient of Days, coming to you live from beautiful downtown Crestline in the San Bernardino Mountains of Southern California's Inland Empire, where we're having an unusually warm and sunny day in February, which of course is winter. I'm having one of my usual breakfasts that you might think weird: Fritos and carrot juice. I got a ride to Trader Joe's last week and got myself some carrot juice. 100% juice, excellent source of vitamin A, organic carrot juice. The neat thing about it is I don't have to put on my dentures to drink the juice. I have to have them on to eat the carrots. Trader Joe's has a podcast? Wow. Oh no, climate change. Piffle. We have already done more in the United States than any other nation to reduce pollution. Nobody likes pollution. But it makes no difference because uh, China, India, Africa, they're ripping this planet apart. Never mind climate change. They have, for example, children working in strict mining of rare minerals. So these billionaires and millionaires can get rich selling us cell phones. Archontic. Oh, Trader Joe's is Archons. They didn't used to be. When I was married to Phil and we lived in Fullerton, the local Trader Joe's was part of the Pronto chain of mini marts, a little market. And it was the one local to us was basically where the drug addicts bought their candy bars. For some reason, drug addicts eat a lot of candy. And they were one of the first outlets for Famous Amos cookies. I forget which corporation, but some corporation bought Famous Amos and ruined it. Amos himself made those cookies with sugar and butter, not coconut, not, I'm sorry, not palm oil and corn syrup. They're disgusting now. Well, anyway, I haven't been to a Trader Joe's in years, so it was a special treat. And I love my carrot juice, but the supermarkets lately haven't had it. They've had carrot mango juice, which is not what I want. I want carrot juice. Climate changes. That's what it does. You might have heard about something called the Ice Age about 12,000 years ago. And then there was the medieval warm period, followed by the Little Ice Age. And ever since I was a child, climate has been changing, and they wanted us to panic because we were heading into another ice age in the 60s and 70s. Well, now we're headed toward global warming. Uh, I wouldn't mind being a little warmer. Yeah, the millionaires would lose their beach houses in Malibu. Some islands would sink. But you know what? This is the 21st century. People can move. They don't have to sit there and drown. Perhaps instead of uh, forcing us to give up the so called luxuries, which have become necessities, they could work on helping people who need help in the face of, oh, sinking islands, eroding beaches, stuff like that. Don't just send out a helicopter to drop a crate full of rice. For example, there are beaches in Southeast Asia and in the island nations of the Pacific where almost every year you can count on a tsunami or a high tide, usually a tsunami, because the Pacific is the ring of fire. There's lots of volcanoes and earthquakes, and people's homes get washed away in the flood. So, what do the rescue workers do? They build the same houses in the same place for the same people who just lost everything. Let's come up with a little common sense and a real solution. But no, we wouldn't be sending all our money to these charities to help those poor victims if they solved the problem and they weren't victimized anymore. Well, anyway, I came on today to talk about Zoroaster and Gnosticism because on uh, Facebook, which some people call Evil Book, it is what it is, and you know what it is when you sign up for it. Well, anyway, I commented on a post about Philip K. Dick that Phil was more a Zoroastrian than a Gnostic. And some people seem to think that Gnosticism or that Zoroastrianism is Gnostic. Well, no. Um, Although we don't know when Zoroaster lived, um, most experts put him between 700 and 600 BC. It was a long time before Gnosticism, which arose in the Second Temple period, maybe, after um, Cyrus the Persian sent the Jews back to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple around, somewhere around 500 BC. Gnosticism basically arose between 200 BC and 300 AD. And it isn't one religion, it's just a sort of philosophical framework for a variety of beliefs. Ah, I'm on my last pack of cigarettes and I'm going to enjoy it. I had to pay the bills, so there's no money for cigarettes. Unless somebody wants to send me some PayPal or better yet, those Dunhill cigarettes from England. And they cost an arm and two arms and two legs, I think. But um, they aren't laced with all these freaking chemicals. Neither are Sherman's, but I don't get anything from Sherman cigarettes. They're like, eh, wow, $10 a pack for Dunhills, over $10. Ah, oh well. Anyway, Zoroaster did provide some ideas to the Gnostics. The idea of a cosmic battle between light and darkness. Um, well, yeah, you find that in Gnosticism, but Zoroaster or Zarathustra, as in oh dear, um, I gotta get the right composer's name. Also, sprach Zarathustra. Um, yeah. Recordings. Strauss, Richard Strauss. You know, um, wrote this. I guess it's a symphony. Thus spoke Zoroaster in English, or also sprach Zarathustra in German. And of course, if you've seen the movie 2001, you know the music. I still can't forgive them though for when they had the huge space wheel turning and they played Handel. That waltz. Now I'm blank on it, on the title, but I don't like it. I think it might have been the Blue Danube, but man, that opening music. But it really hits you. It's so appropriate. Anyway, Zoroaster. Okay, I've got a couple links here. I'll start with the Gnostic link from Gnostic Teachings. Okay, and then I'll go to the Bible Studies link. This actually quotes Madame Blavatsky, the Russian psychic or spiritualist or whatever of the early 20th century. Okay, also known as Zoroaster. The word Zarathustra comes from the Avestan language. That's an ancient language of Persia, guys. The word is composed of Zarat, which means golden, and Ustra, which means starlight. So Zoroaster is golden starlight. And of course, we have Zoroaster from the Greek, the way the Greeks spelled his name. Zarathustra is a title just like the titles Buddha, Jesus, Manu, Vyasa, Kabir, Rinpoche, Dalai Lama, etc. Unfortunately, as in other cases, humanity. God, this is a Gnostic talking. People confused the title with a name and assumed it referred only to one person. So Zarathustra is popularly considered to be a Persian man who founded Zoroastrianism and the author of Yasna Haptanghiti and the Gathas, hymns of Zoroastrianism. However, the period of time in which he lived is unknown, with suggestions from various writers ranging from the 18th to the 6th centuries BC. a period of 1200 years. Moreover, and here he quotes Madame Blavatsky, who says, by original we mean the Amshaspend, called Zarathustra, the lord and ruler of the Vara made by Yima in that land. And that there, she's quoting somebody in her book, The Secret Doctrine. And she goes on to say that there were at least 13, there were more than 13, I guess, Zarathustras. He kept reincarnating. The last Zoroaster was the founder of the fire temple of Ozarek and the writer of the works on the primeval sacred Magian religion destroyed by Alexander. The Magi, in other words. Magian. Alexander the Great, of course, conquered Persia. I don't see Alexander destroying the religion, by the way. He didn't care about religion. He just wanted to conquer the world. And Blavatsky goes on, this may explain the difficulties in trying to find a single date to assign to the man. She wrote this in 1888. Now the article goes back to, does it have an author? Apparently not. Like the tradition of the Dalai Lamas, the Zarathustras were not all one person, but incarnations of a force and energy. In the story of Tibet, the 14th Dalai Lama said, okay, the story of Tibet is a book. It doesn't give a citation, so I don't know how to steer you toward that book. But it said the 14th Dalai Lama said, if someone asks me whether I am the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama, he said, then I answer without hesitation, yes. This does not mean that I am the same being as the previous Dalai Lama. Some Dalai Lamas are a manifestation of Manjushri. Some are a manifestation of Chenrezig. ... In other words, something's left out. I have a special connection with the 13th Dalai Lama and the 5th Dalai Lama. I have felt some kind of karmic relations or connections even with the Buddha. We might have been born at the same time during a past life, a teacher and a student, or a ruler and a subject, or we might even have been spiritual friends. End quote. Thus, we find the same scenario in every religion, such as in the case of the Zarathustras. Well, not quite every religion. You see, Judaism and Christianity both say nothing about reincarnation. Hi, Timothy. Hi, Oswald. Hi, Dave. Love it when you chat with me. Anyway, I'll be right back because I've drunk a lot of coffee and carrot juice. So hang on, don't go away. Okay, I'm coming back. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Um, I gotta check something. Okay. Joseph has invited an eminent Swedish philosopher to come watch the stream. He's a Zoroastrian. Is Zoroastrian. Hmm. Well, hope he listens. Now I'm going to the biblical link about Zoroastrianism. Bible tools, etc. Bible verses about Zoroastrianism from Forerunner Commentary. This is um, the Berean, Berean website, but it's called BibleTools.org. And this article is by Richard T. Well, no, parts of it, I guess, are by Richard T. Rittenbaugh. Yeah, there's parts by different people. So I guess Forerunner Commentary is a collection of articles. Interestingly, even though the title is Bible Verses about Zoroastrianism, it begins with a discussion of Gnosticism. Gnosticism is difficult to define because it comes in so many flavors and interpretations. By itself, it is not a separate denomination or religion, but a religious philosophy. It is a framework from which to explain the nature of God, creation, good and evil, man, and the purpose of life. Gnostics tended to focus exclusively on the inner life of the spirit, which they clearly differentiated from material life. Author R.V. Young, in his book Harold Bloom, The Critic as Gnostic, summarizes Gnostic teachings this way. The Gnostic teaching places the origin of evil, of pain and suffering, in the conditions of the material creation. Salvation involves overcoming ignorance and escaping these external conditions by finding divinity within. Dot, 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 dot. The Gnostic finds the beginning of the path to salvation in the realization that the world is a great imposture, a prison of pain and frustration. His escape lies in recovering the intrinsic good within himself, the principle of illumination that he shares with other enlightened spirits. What makes it possible for the self and God to communicate so freely is that the self already is of God. Now, this paragraph all by itself will tell you that that is where Philip K. Dick was coming from in his exegesis. However, there are differences between his religious philosophy and that of Gnostics. And he resonated more with Zoroaster. Here we go. Got to finish off my carrot juice. Seeing as how Trader Joe's is pushing climate change propaganda, I guess I shouldn't go back there for more, but man, I love carrot juice. Yes, Phil thought that we lived in a black iron prison, that the world is not what it seems to be. He sought knowledge as a form or a path, form of or path to salvation. So to that extent, yes, his ideas were Gnostic. But let's go on in the article here. Gnosticism contained only a few core beliefs, but as long as they were adhered to, they could be infused into any number of religions, including Christianity, Buddhism, Judaism, and even Islam, the Gnostic form of which is known as Sufism. Yes, the Sufi are Muslim Gnostics. That was me talking. Okay, back to the article. The Gnostic concepts are typically traced back to the religions of Persia and India, Zoroastrianism and Hinduism, but they have been added to and modified over time, especially as they became entrenched in Greek culture. As Plato's writings are full of Gnostic concepts, he furthered the cause of the Gnostics tremendously. Now, stepping back for a moment, I would say it's primarily the Neo-Platonists who influenced and were influenced by Gnosticism. Back to the article, and I'll skip a little in the middle of this paragraph. Well, maybe I won't. Yeah, I'll go ahead and read it all. Today, Jewish mystics practice a religion known as Kabbalah, a Gnostic version of Judaism. Its most famous spokesperson right now is none other than Madonna. But other celebrated practitioners include Demi Moore, Britney Spears, and Mick Jagger. Kabbalah, a Hebrew term that literally means receiving, holds that it is the soul of the Torah and that the secrets of life are hidden within its text. It also uses and tries to give the true meaning of the Jewish oral law. Thus, it takes elements of Judaism and arranges them according to secret knowledge about the nature of God, good and evil, and the origin and destiny of man. Its adherents believe that they have found enlightenment even as they live notoriously debased lives. Woo! Checking the chat room. Dunhills are $18 a pack in the UK. What is that in pounds, James? Sugar Patch is here. Where? Oh, hi. So we got Timothy, James, Sugar Patch, Joseph, Dave. Wow, we got a full house here. The room is full. Okay, Phil didn't mess with Kabbalah. He said there was something dark about Kabbalah. Now, this references a Bible verse, Daniel chapter 2, verse 39. My poor computer will have a stroke if I try to open another page. So where did I put my Bible? I'll get this one. After all, it was Phil's Bible, the New English Bible with Apocrypha. Daniel. I don't have the little tabs on this one. Come on, where's Daniel? Well, he's before Malachi. because that's the last book of the Old Testament. Say it, Daniel. Chapter 2, verse 39 says, let's start, it's in the middle of a sentence. Let's start with 37. You, O King, King of kings, to whom the God of heaven has given the kingdom with all its power, authority, and honor, in whose hands he has placed men and beasts and birds of the air, wherever they dwell, granting you sovereignty over them all. You are that head of gold. Oh, I see. This is Daniel explaining the statue with the feet of clay and all that. Well, let's read the article. The idea of inferiority seems to pass to the succeeding empires as well. But in what way was Medo-Persia inferior? You see, Medo-Persia, Persia was originally two kingdoms that were sort of united. The Medes were considered superior to the Persians, but the kings or emperors were Persian. After some fighting anyway, Medo-Persia controlled a larger territory than did Babylon, so it certainly was not inferior in political or military might. Even before the fall of Babylon, Cyrus had defeated the wealthy Croesus, king of Lydia in Asia Minor in 546 BC. And so I'll give you a link about Croesus. You see, Croesus went to the oracle at Delphi, which is never a good idea. He asked if he should attack Persia. And the oracle, in her enigmatic way, said that if you do, you will destroy a great empire. Well, Croesus went, he paid a lot of money, gold and jewels and stuff, spices, silks, you name it, to get this, to ask this question and get this answer. So Croesus attacked Persia. So Croesus went back to the oracle and said, "Why did you lie to me?" And the oracle said, which empire you would destroy. You should have come back and asked the question, which empire will be destroyed? To the oracle at Delphi, got answers to their questions, which led to their doom. Like Oedipus, who was told that he was fated to murder his father and marry his mother. So he ran away from home, full well knowing that he'd been adopted and he was safe if he stayed in Corinth, but he ran away and ended up killing his father and marrying his mother. It's a famous Greek play. Okay, I don't have the Dewey Rhymes version. Psalm 95, verse 5. Okay, Psalm. To Psalms. It's between Esther and Job. Psalm 95. Sounds familiar. I've heard some teaching about Psalm 95. So let's look at it. Psalm 95. Come, let us raise a joy Let us come into his presence with thanksgiving and sing him psalms. The sea is his, he made it. The dry land fashioned by his hands is his. Come, let us throw ourselves at his feet in homage. Let us kneel before the Lord who made us, for he is our God. We are his people, we the flock he shepherd. Oh, we are the flock he shepherds. You shall know his power today if you will listen to his voice. Do not grow stubborn as you were at Meribah, tested me, and saw for themselves all that I did. For 40 years I was indignant with that generation, and I said, they are a people whose hearts are astray, and they will not discern my ways. As I swore in my anger, they shall never enter my rest. Well, that refers to the Exodus when the Israelites were not allowed. Yes, I know Google account, but if I open another page on this computer, it'll have a stroke. My internet connection is very weak, and I often get paused on YouTube. Now, let's see. So, Dewey Rhymes is quite different from the New English Bible. I wonder what the King James said. But yeah, the gods of the Gentiles are the sons of God that in Deuteronomy chapter 32, God assigned the nations to these lesser gods because after the flood they built the Tower of Babel, which is what, Genesis chapters 10 and 11. I wouldn't say devils, but they're lesser gods who uh, usurped the authority of the one God and demand worship and sacrifice to themselves instead of to Yahweh, or if you will, Hashem, Adonai. Hi, Crichton. You're late, but I'm glad you're here. More wrenches is better. Trying to write a novel that incorporates, I think you mean some of the ideas of Phil's Owl in Daylight. That's awesome, Google account, but I wish I knew who you were. Yeah, well, Crichton, we went through a little about Gnosticism and Zoroaster. Now we're in the book of Daniel and how Zoroaster or Zoroastrianism is a Persian religion from ancient times. So let's get back to this here article. I'll drop the link in the chat room again in case you want to look at it and follow along. The idea of inferiority. Okay, Medo-Persia is considered inferior, even though they were bigger than Babylon. They conquered Croesus, king of Lydia in Asia Minor in 546 BC. After victories in central Iran and in Phoenicia, he, King Cyrus, conquered Babylon in 539 BC, and his son Cambyses overthrew Egypt and Libya in 525 BC. At its height, the Persian Empire was nearly double the size of Babylon. It did, however, have a problem with internal unity. Cyrus, a Persian, initiated the growth of the empire by usurping the Median throne with the help of the Median nobility. See, the Medes were basically stepping back from the article, they were basically northern Persia, and they were a separate race, culture, etc., and they had their own kings. But the Persians eventually conquered the Medes, but they agreed that even though the Medes no longer had a king, the Median nobility would choose each emperor of Persia. However, uh, didn't quite work out that way. Okay, back to the article. The empire from this point on was dominated by Persians, or as the Bible says, the bear was raised up on one side. Daniel chapter 7, verse 5. The two arms of the image symbolize this division. Remember the statue with feet of clay, feet of iron and clay, and the statue had two arms, which were Media and Persia. But the bear of Persia rose up and took over. Back to the article. Also, each time an emperor died, severe struggles erupted over succession to the throne. Fortunately, mostly strong and capable rulers won these struggles, especially during its first century, and kept the empire whole for over 200 years. Only the superior might of Alexander's Macedonian army spelled its downfall. Another factor of its inferiority was, oddly, its rulers. Cyrus, regaled in the Bible as God's shepherd and his anointed, in Isaiah chapter 44 and 45, was not the same caliber of man as Nebuchadnezzar. Though he was a humane and conciliatory ruler for his time, he neither lived long enough to stamp his character on his realm, he died in 529 BC, nor did he acknowledge God's sovereignty as did his predecessor. Daniel chapter 4. Okay, I'm going to skip a bit. Cyrus was the instrument that God used to reestablish the temple in Jerusalem. In 2 Chronicles chapter 36, the Persians had a general policy to honor the gods of all their defeated enemies by repairing or rebuilding temples and giving offerings to them. They wanted to appease the gods just in case. There I'm paraphrasing. Scholars are still divided over whether Cyrus actually meant that the God of Israel was indeed the true God and thus his sovereign Lord. Most think he did not, because decrees to other nations have been found in which similar language is used. And blah, 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 and down to the final paragraph here. The religion of the Persians was Zoroastrianism. So here in the 500s BC, so over 500 years BC, there's Zoroastrian. A dualistic belief in good and evil and man's struggle between them. Although it was less bloody, warlike, idolatrous, and superstitious than other polytheistic religions of the region, it retained vestiges of ancient beliefs that eventually supplanted it. The cults of Mithra, the sun god, and Anaita, the goddess of fertility, similar to Nimrod, Tammuz, and Semiramis. So apparently Nimrod and Tammuz are the same person, and their mother is Semiramis. The old Babylonian mystery religion grew in popularity until Zoroastrianism faded into obscurity. But its principle of dualism lived on in Gnosticism and the mystery such as Mithra's birthday, December 25, Sunday as a holy day, All Souls Day, 1st of November, guys, right after Halloween, and heaven, hell, and purgatory were later embraced by Catholicism to counter the popularity of these cults. I get to close that. Now I'll do, let's see, Psalm 95 Dewey, because I have closed some pages. The Dewey Rhymes Bible, Psalms chapter 95. Gotta keep my chat room happy. Oh, hi, Evie. Hi, Nine Eland. Yes, we all love that how to build a universe that doesn't fall apart 2 days later. I think that might be the speech he gave in Vancouver, British Columbia in 1972. Interwhistle, Google. Okay. I was inspired by The Owl in Daylight, but my novel is The Darkening of the Light, playing on the Zoroastrian concept of light versus darkness. Okay. Now, Dewey Rhymes Psalm 95. It's nothing like what I read in the New English Bible. Not even close. A canticle for David himself. When the house was built after the captivity, sing ye to the Lord a new canticle. Sing to the Lord all the earth, sing ye to the Lord and bless his name. Show forth his salvation from day to day. Declare his glory among the Gentiles, his wonders among all people. For the Lord is great and exceedingly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods, for all the gods of the Gentiles are devils, but the Lord made the heavens. Okay, yeah. And I will give you the link to the Dewey Rhymes Psalm 95. Okay, it does say that, and I don't totally disagree. I just want to quibble with the term devil. What does devil really mean? Let's do define devil. I'm assuming they don't mean the devil. In Christian and Jewish belief, the chief evil spirit, Satan, informal, a person with specified characteristics. A devil to devil as a verb is to act as a junior assistant for a lawyer or other professional, or to harass or worry someone. I would say bedevil, Bedevil. Okay, I'm going to put an S on the end of devil. Define devils with an S. It won't do it because Google's stupid. What was Lucifer's name? It was Lucifer. Or Hello Ben Shakar. I forget which part of Isaiah that's in. The Shining One. Hello. Yeah, devil, I'm not sure. If you mean fallen angel, that's a different story. Genesis chapter 6 and the book of First Enoch. Apparently, 200 sons of God. Our term angel is so poofy. It doesn't really describe the many divine entities that God created. But we'll have to go with sons of God. About 200 came down on Mount Hermon and then they married human women and made babies. Those are fallen angels. Lucifer is fallen. God cast him out of the garden, out of the mountain of God, and down to the earth or the Eretz, perhaps down to Hades, the land of the dead. There are, then these 200 were also cast into Hades. So they're fallen, but they aren't devils or demons. Um, the spirits of the dead giants are considered devils or demons. And although the New Testament doesn't say that, the general Christian understanding is that that's where these demons come from, the ones that Jesus casts out. For example, the madman of the Gerasenes, or is it Geradenes? Well, anyway, he casts, the demon says, our name is, I forgot the name, for we are many. Oh, jeez, my brain ain't working. Okay, let's see, Jesus, demoniac, uh, demons, swine. He can't let them go into the swine, the pigs. The Gerasene demoniac. My name is Legion, for we are many. Mark chapter 5? Yeah, Mark chapter 5 and Luke chapter 8. And the herd of pigs jumped off a cliff because even they didn't want to be inhabited by demons. Thank you, Google account. My brain works in weird ways. Aristotle says there is a prime mover, which sounds more orderly. Well, yeah, see, Aristotle doesn't want to say God, so it's kind of like the clockwork universe of the now I've forgotten that term. The theists, like Thomas Jefferson, that God set up the universe like a great clockwork and then went away and didn't mind the clock, just let it do its thing. Um, the those ancient Greek philosophers, many of them, did not believe in God or in the Greek gods. Plato, for example, gave us the heretical idea that when you die, your soul goes to heaven to be with God. Even though he didn't believe in God, you reunited with the one and all or whatever. But I'm not prepared to discuss much about Plato today. But you see, if you look for people who thought they'd die and go to heaven, and the earth would be destroyed in a great Armageddon, you won't find Christians or Jews who believe that. You know who believed it? Plutarch, a pagan philosopher who wrote those biographies that we know as Plutarch's Lives, sort of an ancient Lives of the Rich and Famous. And by the way, he made up most of the biographies that he wrote. Okay, EV. Oh, Michael's here. Yeah, the Greek gods were a mess. They were more like humans than gods. Example was the son of Zeus and a human woman. And Helen of Troy was the daughter of Zeus, who, in the form of a swan, raped the queen of Sparta. At least that's what she told her husband when he returned from war, and she had these two twin daughters. The soul. Well, when the ancient, even Hebrews, Israelites, Old Testament, and possibly the New Testament at all as well. My mouth got ahead of my brain. The soul. When the ancients talked about the soul, they meant something like your identity or your personality, and not this woo woo thing that leaves your body and reincarnates or goes to heaven. It was you, yourself. And quite often you'll find the words soul and spirit used interchangeably. And by the way, now I can't back this up because I'm not a Hebrew scholar, but the Hebrew words for both soul and spirit are used in reference to animals in the Old Testament, according to people who are Hebrew scholars. One of them would be Michael Heiser, and I can't name the others because I'm terrible at names. Yeah, psyche in Greek is breath and soul. I think soul in Hebrew is nephesh. Michael might know. He knows Hebrew and Greek apparently. Anyway, Plato's forms are kind of like Jung's archetypes. Plato saw them as more real than the objects which we encounter in this world. As Philip K. Dick used to put it, there's only one cat, all the others are Xerox copies. In modern terms, I guess they were scanned and printed on your computer and your all in one printer. Although I've found that different cats do behave quite differently. Aristotle, I hate Aristotle. He was a materialist, unlike his teacher Plato, who was kind of an idealist. Google account, I'm not sure what you mean by eternal recurrence. Mikhail, I've seen you post things in Greek letters at least, if not Hebrew. Maybe you found them on the internet. Anyway, Nietzsche's eternal recurrence. Oh, Phil talked about Nietzsche all the time. I think it's spelled Nietzsche. Those Germans don't make spelling easy, do they? And I had to learn to read Fraktur, where the S and the F look like the same letter, and it's even worse than that because there's this thing that is a double S, but it looks like the lowercase beta in Greek. They're getting rid of that, by the way. I studied German in college, but I've lost most of my vocabulary because I have so few uh, opportunities to use German. So I'm going to go back to reading some books that are in German, but it will be slow going, slogging through with a dictionary by my side. Nietzsche had Polish heritage. Oh, that could be. It does look kind of Polish. By the way, most of Poland today was actually Prussia before World War II. East Germany, in other words, the real East Germany before the partition. Poland got a big chunk. And yet, Poland, which used to be so tiny, saved Europe from the invasion of the Mongol hordes. The Polish knights finally turned them back, or we'd all be speaking Chinese or Mongolian or something. Oh, I'm going to mention the Holy Roman Empire and Winter King Palatine. That sounds really interesting, Google account. Wish you had a real name, or at least a name that didn't mention Google. Okay, let's see. Let me go back to the title of your novel. Um, Interwhistle. I'll see if I can find that. Interwhistle. Interwhistle is on Twitter. There's a word reference. Interwhistle has. Can't find anything that I want to post a link to. Promos, I guess promos for Interwhistle are on like YouTube and oh, hi Jonathan, thank you. Google's bots stalk and harass Michael. Anyone else? I don't know. Some Facebook bots have stalked me. I've been called everything but a human being. Apparently, you know, I have a Facebook group just for local people who live around here. And apparently, people who join the group and post something that I delete as inappropriate, they think that they get to tell me how to run my group and which posts and comments are allowed in my group when I'm doing all the work. I tell them all to go start their own group. So they go to a Facebook page that's designed for ranting because they've already been banned from most of the other local groups. And they rant and rave and call me all kinds of names. And I finally found the Facebook meme, or is it meme? M-E-M-E. In French, it would be meme, I guess. You see, French doesn't have to make sense, it's French. Anyway, I found this thing that I could share that says, "It's none of my business what you think of me." In other words, I don't care. Then there's another one that's meme, huh? Evie wants me to say meme. Okay. Um, it's spelled Mimi or Meme. Um, there's another one that's I can't quite remember it. Oh yeah, you don't have to like me and I don't have to care. Oh, short for memory, probably. Anyway, let's see. I've gone through both articles and we've been on for a little over an hour. I usually plan to be on for an hour and end up going for 2 hours. As long as we're doing demons and devils, let's talk about them. What are devils in ancient religion? I don't want Wikipedia. I don't want live science either. How about history.com? History of the devil in folklore. If it'll ever load, my poor computer thinks I'm torturing it with all these links and open pages. History.com. The devil. Oh, it has a table of contents and everything. The devil, also referred to as Satan, is best known as the nemesis of good people everywhere. His image and story have evolved over the years, but this malevolent being and his legion of demons continue to strike fear in people from all walks of life as the antithesis of all things good. I need more water. Be right back. Uh, okay. Someday I will figure out how to stream from Zoom meetings so I can have a guest on and I won't wear out my voice. The devil in the Bible. Although the devil is present in some form in many religions and can be compared to some mythological gods, he's arguably best known for his role in Christianity. In modern biblical translations, the devil is the adversary of God and God's people. It is commonly thought that the devil first showed up in the Bible in the book of Genesis as the serpent who convinced Eve, who then convinced Adam, to eat forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden. As the story goes, after Eve fell for the devil's conniving ways, she and Adam were banished from the Garden of Eden and doomed to mortality. Many Christians believe the devil was once a beautiful angel named Lucifer who defied God and fell from grace. This assumption is often based on the book of Isaiah in the Bible, which says, "How art thou fallen?" Let me start that over. "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations?" Some biblical scholars, however, claim Lucifer isn't a proper name but a descriptive phrase meaning morning star. Still, the name stuck and the devil is often referred to as Lucifer. Now let's see. I gotta find something relevant. At the start of the book of Revelation, the victorious Christian is promised the morning star. Let's see. Here we go. Revelation 22, verse 16. This is Revelation 22. I'm going to go for the English Standard Version, which is the most recent translation that I know of. Come on, load. Okay, I'll put the link in the chat room because Hillel ben Shakar, or Lucifer, son of the morning, is really the bright and morning star, according to some. Now, uh, here we go. verse 16 in Revelation 22. I, Jesus, have sent my angel to testify to you about these things for the churches. I am the root and the descendant of David, the bright morning star. And here Lucifer is the bright morning star. That leads to some heretical and actually Gnostic notions that Jesus and Satan are twin brothers. It's heresy. But I can see where they get it. Now back to the devil article in history.com. Names for the devil are numerous. Besides Lucifer, he may be referred to as the Prince of Darkness, Beelzebub, Mephistopheles, Lord of the Flies. See, I gotta interject. Beelzebub is not Lord of the Flies. That would be Beelzebul, ending with L. Beelzebub is Lord of poop, excrement, you know. All right. Other names: the Antichrist, father of lies, Moloch, or simply Satan. The book of Ezekiel includes another biblical passage Christians refer to as proof of the devil's existence. It admonishes the greedy king of Tyre, but also refers to the king as a cherub who was once in the Garden of Eden. As a result, some Bible translators believe the king of Tyre was a personification of the devil. The devil makes more appearances in the Bible, especially in the New Testament. Jesus and many of his apostles warned people to stay alert for the devil's cunning enticements that would lead them to ruin. And it was the devil, well, I thought it was Satan, but okay. It was the devil who tempted Jesus in the wilderness to fall down and worship him in exchange for riches and glory. Now, let me point out that when Satan tempted Jesus in the wilderness, he offered him rulership over the whole world. It kind of implies that Satan had that rulership to give. He had the whole world. Jesus didn't argue with him. He simply said, "Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God." Yeah, Walter Bosley is awesome. He comes on apparently anywhere from 5:30 to 6:30 Sunday evenings on YouTube. Got to listen to him as well as my podcast. The French language, the problem is they don't spell things the way they're pronounced. Imagine Eska. We'd probably write it Eska. I don't even want to try to spell it in French, but I can tell you it's 3 words. Eska. Okay. Let's see. The devil and other religions. Well, I can think of one right now, what we call the genies, the jinn in Islam are considered devils, demonic beings. They aren't just a nice guy in a lamp who gives you wealth or whatever. Most other religions and cultures teach of an evil being who roams the earth, wreaking havoc and fighting against the forces of good. In Islam, the devil is known as Shaitan, and like the devil in Christianity, is also thought to have rebelled against God. In Judaism, Satan is a verb and generally refers to a difficulty or temptation to overcome instead of a literal being. Well, I disagree with that because I think it's in Job. Let's see. Let me seeking. Let me find. Uh yeah. Um, getting all New Testament stuff. Oh well, would help if I spelled things right. Here we go. Come on, search, please. Search. I'm going to have to open a new page and start over because it's being mean to me. Okay. Might help if I clear the cache. Yes. Now it's loading. Okay, clear the cache anyway. It's getting full. Come on. Hourglass, hourglass, hourglass. Come on. There, here. And it's giving me Peter. 100 Bible verses. I think it's in Job. Might not be. All right. Let's see. James. Job. Yay. Job chapter 1, verse 17. I read the first chapter. I don't remember this. Oh, it's verse 7. Okay. The Lord. Okay, I want to view the full chapter. Now, starting with verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God, I wonder which translation this is. ESV, cool. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. See, he is a person in Judaism. And verse 7, the Lord said to Satan, "From where have you come?" Satan answered the Lord and said, "From going to and fro on the earth, and from walking up and down it." Okay, I thought it went on to say, "Seeking whom I might devour," but I don't see that. Anyway, in Judaism, Satan, it usually says the Satan. It's sort of the prosecutor, the, I don't want to say enemy, but the opposition. He's looking for them. All right, back to the history.com article. In Buddhism, Mara is the demon that tempted Buddha away from his path of enlightenment. Like Christianity's Jesus that's poor grammar. It should be as Christianity's Jesus resisted the devil, Buddha also resisted temptation and defeated Mara. In people of almost any religion, or even in those who don't follow a religion, the devil is almost always synonymous with fear, punishment, negativity, and immorality. And it goes on about Dante's Inferno. We're sort of studying the Bible. We went through Super Fun Cat. We went through Super V, Fun Cat. We went through Zoroaster and Gnosticism for an hour, more or less. Yes, the accuser, Michael. Um, okay, Evie wants to talk about. Oh, I see. It's talking to Spengler. I'm going to have to tell you there's more and more about the devil and hell and the devil and witches, but Spengler, I got to tell you what that means. Oswald Spengler, Oswald Arnold Gottfried Spengler, was a German historian and philosopher of history whose interests included mathematics, science, and art, and the relationship to his cyclical theory of history. He is best known for his book The Decline of the West, published in 1918 and 1922, covering all of world history. Sort of like Isidore of Seville. Remember Jack Isidore in novels by Philip K. Dick equals Isidore of Seville, who wrote an encyclopedia of one volume that contained all of knowledge in his time. Okay, gotta put an O in volume and then hit enter. Now, while you guys ponder that, I gotta recycle some coffee, but I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I'm back. Hour and a half. um, well, as I explained, Jonathan, we don't go to heaven. That's a pagan idea. The real promise in the book of Revelation is a new heaven and a new earth. Oh, that's interesting. Oswald Spengler thought Zoroastrian cultures were Magian or Magian, Magi anyway, and our Western Abrahamic cultures are Faustian. To some extent. Now, see, Christopher Marlowe's version of Faust has the demons dragging him down into hell at the end. Goethe, when he wrote Faust, he wasn't satisfied, so he kind of cheated. And he um, had God say to the devil, Mephistopheles, you cheated. So I'm taking Faust up to heaven. It basically has to do with the fact that when Faust, you see, he could have anything he wanted for 20 years before he had to go to hell. Well, when Faust demanded Helen of Troy, the devil Mephistopheles gave him a demon in the form of Helen of Troy and not the actual Helen. Well, so God said, "You cheated. Faust is mine. I get his soul." Well, the Garden of Eden story, in one, I guess, heretical tradition, in the Apocrypha or somewhere in all those books that are not in the Bible, extra biblical literature. What really happened was that this spirit or divine, but not God being, thought he was doing Adam and Eve a favor when he led them into a cave full of beautiful jewels. But Adam and Eve got lost and couldn't leave the cave, which sounds a lot like Plato and his cave, where all we see are the shadows of real things and not the things in themselves. But you see, we don't go to heaven unless we're heretics. We're supposed to be reborn on the new earth, and heaven and earth will come together as they did in the Garden of Eden. Well, I'm not an expert in Hebrew grammar, but experts have convinced me that Elohim is not a plural because the pronouns in Hebrew are singular. For example, if I say deer, deer, how many deer? One or two or more? Or how about sheep? Without a pronoun or some other indicator like a verb, the sheep is eating the grass or the sheep are eating the grass. That tells you how many, one or two or more. I saw a deer in the woods, that's one. I saw several deer in the woods, that's two or more. Well, okay, Jonathan, thanks for coming by, and I'm not going to argue with you. It's heaven on earth, is the only way I can put it. Heaven and earth will be joined, but you don't go into outer space the way the pagans believed and just join this impersonal force and disappear as individuals. Okay, who discusses my husband at length, Evie? Oh, the Gnostics on New Thinking Aloud. Um, um, oh, Jason Reza Giorgiani. Well, got it now. Thanks, Evie. Um, yeah, the Gnostics have some good points, but where I beg to differ, they say that the Adam had the divine spark. Eve did not. So women can't go to heaven, only men. Well, that's a big uh, killer for me. It kills the idea of Gnosticism for me, for obvious reasons. What do you mean I can't go? I can't gain gnosis and join with the pleroma just because I was born female? Stick it where the sun don't shine, you stupid Gnostics. Thank you, Evie. I can almost see your little picture there. There's some kind of shadowy critter. Oh, is that a horse? I love horses. Can't ride them anymore. It hurts so bad to sit on a horse. I can't even sit on one, let alone ride one. Ooh dear, my last cigarette. I'm going to have to recycle cans and bottles. I just paid my bills. There's no cigarette money. Thank God I have plenty of coffee and tea. Although it's herbal tea. It's an old French cartoon. A dog. Oh, it's a dog protecting a young girl. No, I don't want to be an honorary male. Males are inferior. So there. And yes, I'm kidding. But I don't want to be an honorary male. Anyway, I part company with Gnostics. Oh, poor Oswald, you need a pipe if you're out of cigarette tubes. I have tubes and a little kachunky thing and tobacco. I cannot roll a cigarette to save my life. Maybe if I had one of those super expensive things where you put the tube on the thingy and then you turn the crank, that might work. I can't roll with the roll it up by hand thingy. I can't use the kachunky thing. I can't roll my own. Oh, I do have somewhere an e-cig, so I won't go totally nuts. But e-cigs are not the same. They banned mint. I thought menthol was allowed. Well, I don't want flavors, but I haven't. Here it is. I have this here thing, an e-cig, and you just unscrew this and put a new one on. And I have a couple spares. I think this one's almost empty. Yeah, getting a little. Whew. Anyway, I won't have to kill the cat or anything like that. Oh, mint is not menthol. Yeah, I know I have COPD, Michael. I've been diagnosed, but it isn't from the cigarettes. You see, I used to work on an Air Force base and I got COPD from breathing in the fumes coming off the runway. I was scared to light a cigarette there because of the smell of kerosene everywhere, jet fuel, you know. Anyway, when I quit working there, my health improved. See, I don't breathe in cigarette smoke. I puff, poof. If if too much cigarette smoke should build up in a small place, I have to leave because I my lungs go ew, and I cough my lungs out, so I don't inhale the stinking things. Yeah, yeah. Christ said they're one flesh. A natural cigar smoker. Well, I've tried cigars, but it's hard to keep them lit. And then there's the part where you kind of chew on the end. I guess I could get cigarillos. They have a plastic thingy on them. And then there's a, oh God, for well, the longest time, Dad used to smoke White Owl, really cheap cigarette-sized cigars. Well, I don't know. A good Cuesta Rey 95 is a very nice cigar. But as I said, I have a devil of a time keeping it burning. Uh, Lord. Anyway, Zoroaster was a dualist, Ahura Mazda versus Ahriman, light versus darkness. Gnosticism has a pleroma, the one God that isn't a person at all, but just this force, kind of divided into these um, eons or emanations. And one of those emanations created Yahweh, who was evil and just enjoys the heck out of torturing Adam and Eve and all of humanity. So the creator of the earth in Gnosticism is bad. And there's all kinds of gods. In Zoroastrianism, you have a person. You have two of them. Ahriman is bad, Ahura Mazda is good, but the light is superior to the darkness. They aren't equal. And people tend to forget that and see the world as a continual battle between good and evil in which neither can ever win unless we human beings step in and help. Oh, there's a stash of Cuban cigars somewhere, huh? No, I don't have any Cubanos. I used to have a box, an empty Cuban cigar box from before they were, we outlawed them in the United States, but you can buy them in Canada. At least last I heard you could. You're just not supposed to bring them to the United States. Now, the worst ever was my oldest brother, who's no longer living. Long story. He smoked Cherry Eric. Got me into them for a short time, but man, they really hurt my throat. They're sort of cigars. They come in plain and cherry flavor, and I think there's a menthol variety. I used to smoke Salem menthol cigarettes when I had a cold. They help to clear your sinuses. And I kind of like them, but I haven't had a Salem in years. And sometimes all I could get was Kool, Kool menthols, and ugh, they're nasty. Salem's have more menthol than nicotine in them. Oh well. Anyway, I have a very mild case of COPD that used to be really, really bad when I was working on the Air Force Base. It isn't so bad now. Haven't worked there since I think '01 or '02. One time, many moons ago, when my child was 2 years old, I got pneumonia and pleurisy, and the doctor who looked at the X-ray told me I would never that I had these scars on the pleura, the lining of your chest cavity, and that they would never go away. Well, the next time I had a chest X-ray, I forget why, probably just diagnostic. I mentioned it, and the tech or doctor, whoever was looking at the X-ray, said, "There's no scars there." And yet I had seen the earlier X-rays, and there were scars there. And I looked at these new X-rays, and I said, "Oh, you're right. They're gone. They healed." Cuesta Ray Fine Cigar. We used to have them in the UK, not now. Wonder why, James? Cigarettes don't generally stay lit. Sometimes they'll burn up in the ashtray, but usually, if I set one down, it'll go out. Oh, I have to. Um, See, there's a law in the mountains because of fire danger. They can't put those nasty chemicals in the paper that keep it burning. I have to moderate Michael's comment because he said sex scandal. Did the French go Puritan on us? I don't know. Actually, though, um, we have bigger problems than cigarettes and vaping. I've seen more lives destroyed by alcohol and meth and heroin. They usually go together. They drink alcohol when they can't get their illegal drugs because it takes the edge off the withdrawals. My oldest brother drank himself to death. Yeah, the French actually kept Philip K. Dick off, from becoming completely homeless. His books didn't sell well in the U.S. or even the U.K. or Canada. So if it weren't for the French, we'd have been homeless. As it was, we weren't doing too well financially. High fructose corn syrup. Yeah, it destroys lives. And then there's all these various oils that they've used instead of butter. Now, I can kind of relate to vegetarians who will drink milk and eat eggs and butter. I can't imagine being a vegan. They won't even eat honey because it's bee slavery, and I just don't get that. And most supermarket olive oil isn't real olive oil. Well, even if it is real olive oil, it isn't the first pressing. It's um, inferior. And they still charge an arm and a leg. You'll notice virgin olive oil is supposed to be from the first pressing, but then they have extra virgin olive oil. So, what does that mean? And half of the olive oil they sell is mixed with cheaper oils. Stealing the honey from the bees. Yeah, well, bears do it. Why can't I do it? Well, if you keep bees, if you're a beekeeper, oh, raw foodists won't even cook their veggies. I'd die. There are too many things you can't eat raw. They're poisonous. They're very toxic if you don't cook them. Beekeepers actually, in most cases, are doing a good thing. Now, bees are becoming endangered from pesticides, but in general, keeping bees ensures that they survive the winter because the keeper provides them with protection from the cold and so forth, and from predators. That you see, when a critter takes the honey, it just destroys the whole hive, and all the baby bees die. You know which animals are not endangered? Dogs, cats, horses, cows, sheep, ducks, chickens. See a pattern here? Animals that people keep are not endangered. Well, Timothy, beekeepers don't take all the honey. They take some of the honey in the early part of the year when the bees can still go out and get more nectar. The bees don't starve. That would defeat the purpose of keeping bees. They make sure the colony survives through the winter. Evie, I don't see how it's Marxist, but okay. You know, Karl Marx wrote about the dignity of labor. The countries that have implemented communism haven't followed that concept of the dignity of labor. Now, I don't eat a lot of meat, partly because I can't digest it well, but mostly because I don't like the idea of killing cute critters just so I can eat. Um, I'm mostly vegetarian, but I drink milk and I eat eggs and I use honey. Honey is such a good food. It helps to combat, you see, I get local honey produced locally from local bees. It helps to combat my allergies to the various pollens in this neck of the woods. Seize the means of production. Why not build your own means of production? That's my problem with uh, seizing the means of production. We're back to Karl Marx. You see, part of the problem with early capitalism, which was really mercantilism, was that the factories in the cities were driving the cottage industries out of business. The builders of factories and the colonizers of other parts of the world had royal charters, which gave them monopolies by permission of the king or queen to unfairly drive out all competition. It wasn't as if people didn't have clothes before the huge mills were created where they milled the cotton or the wool with machines and they made cheap cloth, cotton wool or whatever, and sold it cheaply. Individuals with cottage industries used to make clothing. They would spin the thread or the yarn from uh, whatever they had on hand. Cotton wasn't common, by the way, had to be imported. And I hate cotton, it's an inferior fabric. But they did have a lot of flax, which makes linen. And there are people in the UK, at least today, who still grow flax and turn it into linen. Takes a long time. It's a lot of work, but it's far superior to cotton. I remember when I was a kid, we always had linen sheets because cotton was crap. Linen, yeah, now we've gone to polyester or cotton polyester mixed. Uh, it's still, well, polyester doesn't rot as easily as cotton, but cotton, if cotton gets wet and stays wet, it will rot. Hmm. You know, as long as we're on Marx and Germans, Marx was actually German, even though he was in England when he wrote his book. Yeah, even wool is better than cotton, but in the summertime, you don't want to wear a lot of wool. Anyway, um, someone recently pointed out on a YouTube channel, and I tend to agree. The problem with Nazi Germany was not nationalism. The nations that they attacked were nationalists. Germany was building an empire. And I kind of wonder, Evie, I'm not sure what you mean by based. Do you mean biased? Oh, or cotton based? I don't know. There's this word empirical. I wonder if it has anything to do with empire. Empirical looks like empire, but comes from a completely different origin, from the Greek empirikos, meaning experienced. It was originally used in medicine for doctors making choices based on observation and experiment rather than theoretical ideas. Okay, so there's NVRMD. Oh, never mind. You want it clipped? Well, let's see. No, I'm not going to remove it. I think it's cute. Anyway, we're headed toward 2 hours and I'm tired and hungry. I think I'm going to boil up, or, yeah, no, steaming takes too long. I have Brussels sprouts. They're in my freezer, but they arrived fresh. They take a long time to cook. I'm going to have Brussels sprouts. They look like little tiny cabbages, and I love them with lots of butter and salt, and not margarine, butter. I just can't go vegan. I might have a little chicken with the Brussels sprouts. Though what I'd really like is short ribs and cabbage. I don't keep beef. I rarely eat it. What am I looking for? But it's going to take about half an hour to boil the Brussels sprouts, and then I'll probably have them with cheese and butter. Yeah, I do eat fish. I just can't feel too sorry for a fish. Zoroastrians were vegetarians, but not vegan. That's interesting. Well, actually, when Daniel and his friends were being trained to serve the king of Babylon, they asked to be fed pulse, which means vegetables, instead of the food from the king's table. And they were more healthy than the people who ate all the crap from the king's table, which probably wasn't, they didn't have refrigerators. It probably was a little rotten. I can see vegetarianism if you can throw in eggs and a few other things to make sure you get the essential nutrients that aren't present in vegetables, or at least not present in sufficient amounts. I suppose if you ate nothing but kidney beans, you might get enough of everything. But actually, there's other nutrients that even the kidney beans don't have. Fish and wine, huh? Oh, like Japan. Oh, the Italians do all right, and they eat all kinds of stuff, even pork. I'm not big on pork, but sometimes I've got to have some bacon or sausage. Just got to. I'm beginning to think, though, that we shouldn't be eating pigs, but that's a long story. Might have something to do with the demoniac of the Gerasenes. I always want to say Gadarene. I think maybe the King James has Gadarene. The demoniac of the Gerasenes, and Jesus says to the demons, okay, you can go into the pigs. And even the pigs would rather die than be demon possessed, and they jumped off a cliff. You like sprouts? Well, my brothers hated Brussels sprouts. So when we were kids, I would agree to eat their Brussels sprouts if they also shared their dessert with me. Worked for me. I love Brussels sprouts. Haggis? Oh, God, Oswald. I'm told that it tastes like oatmeal, so I just have oatmeal. Haggis is a bunch of stuff, including oats, cooked in a sheep's stomach until it's just this uh, gooey, slimy mess, kind of like the cheap oatmeal. It's supposed to cook for 1 minute, but you cook it for 5 and it goes, ew. Oh, and by the way, restaurants do not know how to make oatmeal, so I'll tell you the secret before I sign off. You boil the water, turn off the stove, and then stir in the oatmeal and let it sit. I had to moderate Super V. What's his name? Super V Cat, or yeah, Super V Fun Cat, because he said menudo, and YouTube thinks that's a bad word. Yeah, I've never had menudo, but I have walked past restaurants that served it, and needless to say, I did not go inside. Tasted like ground beef? Yes, don't boil the oats. That's true, Super V Fun Cat. Now, if you get the rolled oats that are not smushed into oblivion, you can boil those, but why? I like the 5 minute kind. They're smashed, but they're big and they aren't, well, they're just better than the 1 minute kind. Menudo, yeah, it's a soup made from entrails. It's made from the parts that most of us don't eat, internal organs. I do happen to love chicken liver. I haven't tried to cook beef liver. A beef liver is much more than I can eat in one sitting, and who wants to keep liver for later? But restaurants don't know how to cook liver. You're supposed to soak the liver in cold water for 5 minutes, or at least 2 minutes if you're in a hurry. Take it out, pat it dry with paper towels. That helps to get the bitterness out of it. And then, if you really want to do it right, you saute it in hot oil. You brown one side, flip it over, brown the other side, take it out, pat it dry again to get the oil off, and then you put it on the grill. These stupid idiots in the restaurants just take a liver and throw it on the grill, and it comes out bitter because they didn't get the bitterness out. They should at least soak it in water, even if they don't have time to saute it before they grill it. Oh, yes, Super V Fun Cat liver soaking in milk is good too. Oh, yeah, it would drive your Jewish friend crazy. That's not kosher. I forget whether it was Belial's. No, I think it was just a Jewish deli. I had a deviled egg sandwich, or it was a chicken sandwich. Must have been chicken salad sandwich. No mayonnaise, because you don't eat the chicken and the eggs together. And for some reason, they won't put mayonnaise on an egg sandwich, even though mayonnaise is made from eggs. So I don't see the problem, but it just isn't kosher. I think they need to find something they can put on to moisten it, like maybe yogurt. Can you eat sheep's milk along with chicken? I don't know. I could never eat kosher. Yeah, a few things are kosher. By the way, if you see a woman wearing a pearl necklace, she's either not Jewish or not an observant Jew, because pearls come from oysters, and oysters are not kosher. I love food. I'm not very good at cooking, but I do know how to eat. Yes, shellfish, I've had to back off on shellfish. One time I ate a shrimp that had not been deveined. That was when I was much more ignorant than I am now. The hit of iodine. Oh, and by the way, that isn't a vein, it's the shrimp's gut. You know what the gut is full of. Well, anyway, I've had reactions to shellfish. In a good Chinese restaurant, I can eat shrimp. They're very careful. I don't know, but if you listen to KFI AM 640 on the radio, and you can get it on the internet, by the way, on iHeartRadio. I often listen in the morning to Bill Handel, who happens to be Jewish, and he's always talking about real Jew bagels. And he made me realize that the things you buy at the grocery store that are called bagels are not the real thing. The real thing is miles beyond, above, better than what you get at the grocery store. For one thing, they're made fresh. And if I remember correctly, they're not cooked in oil like a donut. They're cooked in very hot boiling water. Chupino? Italian shellfish made you high as a kite, huh? I don't know what a chupino would be. A shellfish soup. Yeah, um, you never know with shellfish. You probably had an allergic reaction if you were high from it. Real Jewish bakeries, yes, they are the best. And I love a good bagel with cream cheese and smoked salmon. Oh my, making myself hungry. I can't afford real smoked salmon, the real thing, not that dried out stuff that they smoked in a smokehouse, but the wet, cold, slimy smoked salmon. It's in a brine. Um, Well, anyway, um, I am really winding down and getting ready to go. I think 2 hours is long enough. I do want to point out that Philip K. Dick was more Zoroastrian than Gnostic. He did see a battle between good and evil, as in his novel The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch, with Candy and Choosy battling for market share. And of course, Choosy was evil. You might or might not be aware, but when I was a child, parents discouraged chewing gum as something evil. But candy was good. So choosy is chewing gum and it's bad. Anyway, I gotta go boil my Brussels sprouts. And I have some good cheese to put on them and butter. And that'll probably fill me up. Okay, thanks, Super V Fun Cat. And thank you all for listening. Let's see. And remember, the devil can't win because he isn't God. So there. Wheat gum. Huh. Yeah, people kept telling me chewing gum will ruin your teeth. It turns out that chewing gum is actually good for you. Gives your jaws exercise and gets gunk off your teeth because it's sticky. Okay, let's see. Where's that little button? End stream. Uh, Yay. Timothy wants to see me soon? Well, I'm on Facebook and I kind of dabble in Twitter. Let's see. Here we go. Thanks, everyone. Bye.